Hello, and welcome to the Dungeon Masters Guild House. This is a weekly podcast in which I, your host, Matthew Whitby, sit down with people all across the tabletop, RPG, and surrounding space. And this week, I'm delighted to be joined by Alexi Greer. Hello.
Hello.
How are you doing this fine afternoon?
Yep, it's afternoon over here across the pond. I'm doing great. Thanks for asking.
Nice. Fantastic. So, we're getting right into this week. For the people listening, the people at home tuning in this week, I don't know why I got the image of like having the very kind of old-fashioned radios, because that's the energy I give off in this podcast. But for the people listening, what sort of products have you kind of been creating out in the tabletop RPG space?
Well, in the past, I've mostly exclusively done a lot of Paizo freelancing. So my past work history has been with Paizo's Starfinder line, starting with their hardcover line. And then I also worked with the Starfinder Society live campaign to make a part of the quest pack. Recently, however, I have been part of a 5e and Those Who Wander Kickstarter.
Nice.
And yeah, that's the Demiverse, and I'm very excited for that.
So, I normally, my typical line of questioning is always kind of like, I always go back to the past and then we work our way forwards. But I'm gonna change it up this week.
Yeah.
I'm gonna
get fancy.
Yeah, let's get fancy. Let's chat a little bit about Demiverse. So obviously,
absolutely.
It's a very I'm going to date the podcast slightly, but as of this podcast, the Kickstarter campaign hasn't ended, but by the time of release, it would have ended. And
yes,
it's ticking over bit by bit. Like I think it's picking up more and more Demiverses. I was about to call
yes. So each stretch goal includes a new demi-plane to add to the book. So the more people pledge, the better the value of the book, the bigger it is, the more art, the more authors. And when the campaign launched, we Red Adam, the big brain behind this whole thing, he gathered 50 of us. He put out an open call, and he gathered 50 writers, each of them with a demi-plane idea, to fill this book, to absolutely fill it to the brim. And so I was on the core writing team. So if it funded, period, it would be 4 demi-planes. But as of this time, we have funded... Oh man, how many? I don't even know.
It's
ticking up so fast right now.
Yeah, I'm going to open up, but I think last time I checked, it was 12, maybe 13.
Yeah, each one is a different author, fully chocked with art, its own sort of hex, which looks amazing.
I think again, it's kind of like the kind of fantastic approach of getting 50 very talented like creators, and I guess. Obviously, it kind of ensures people are getting kind of like fair pay at the very least, like you kind of reaching it as the stretch goals. You can guarantee that with each stretch goal that is one author that is going to get paid kind of a suitable amount per word. And again, correct me if I'm wrong, but wasn't there some compensation for the pitches?
I am not aware of that side of things. Fair. I know that Adam was very prompt in responding to all of us, and a big focus of the project is gathering a lot of diverse voices and giving the best, most fair compensation for this industry, essentially. So at first I joined on and gave my pitch because it's like, okay, this is a cool idea.
Yeah.
But the more details about the project that came out and how things were being done, the more I was like, wow, I'm really happy I signed off with this. This has been a very above board project, I'd say, and I'm happy to be a part of it.
No. Well, I mean, again, let's hear a little bit then about your Demiverse then. So
absolutely.
Well, actually, so what I love kind of hearing about, what was your like initial pitch?
Okay, so the initial pitch was a demi-plane called The Tangle, and it hasn't really undergone any sort of major changes since the pitch. Essentially, imagine a old-growth forest that basically smashed into a piece of the Feywild. So the lore of the Demiverse is that the multiverse basically shattered into a bunch of pieces. All different parts of the planes went flying everywhere and smashed into each other. And so now instead of the multiverse, you have the Demiverse, a bunch of demi-planes that are interconnected by gateways. The Tangle is old growth forest from the prime material being smashed with the Feywild, creating a vertical space of forests, not a expansive sort of like sprawling forest that covers large areas of land, but you take the forest and you grow it upwards, and you get these sort of almost benthic layers of sunlight filtering down.
So I think is it the case where you've always kind of been like a fan of the Feywild? Is it?
Oh my gosh, it's to the point where whenever I run games and my players are like, God damn it, it's Fey bullshit again.
But I always feel like with when it comes to, again, at least like in any sort of campaign, the moment you start introducing the possibility of like a Fey realm or Feywild or whatever it is in the particular, I feel like it's like Pandora's box of trouble. Like, because if it's not like the time shenanigans or like the weird bargaining deals going on, you don't really come out, like the players never really come out of it going, oh, we had a really good time where everything.
We were the winners in that one. No, what's interesting about that though, like I am the first to say I love Fey shenanigans. I love the sort of fairy tale themings and stuff, but the way the Tangle leans actually more draws from my my passions for biology and ecology and biodiversity. A big inspiration for this is the fact that I grew up in sunny Paradise, Florida. But like I've always been a big nature nerd, and I used to live really right backed up to forest conservation. I literally would have been able to open the back gate to my my backyard and walk into a conservation area for bald eagles and osprey and all sorts of forest critters. And we get a lot of storms in Florida, and sometimes those storms knock down trees. And it's always just amazing to see how the forest is constantly changing and how so much of nature and so much of this ecosystem will change like from square foot to square foot in microcosms.
I love it. I also do. I always love to hear, or like it's fascinating to hear about like when people's kind of, I guess, passions or interests kind of almost like bleed through into their work.
That is my favorite part about being a RPG writer, is you really bring what you know to the table and what you're most passionate about. There's always something somewhere, some project you can bring those experiences into.
So I was going to ask then, what were some of like, I guess, the kind of ecological aspects you tried to like, I guess, like bring into like your demi-plane?
Well, one of the ones kind of mentioned was the vertical layers. So thinking about it from real world standpoint, ecological standpoint, if you have trees that are as tall as mountains, essentially. Even in like the rainforest or old growth forest, you'll see the phenomena of sunlight is not able to reach all the way down in the same sort of amounts. So the canopy will get the most, but the canopy blocks a lot of it. And as you go down, you're getting incrementally less and less sunlight, more shade. And so take that same phenomena and stretch it to the extreme.
Okay,
so
yeah.
these trees are enormous, and they're to the point that trees are growing on top of the biggest trees, and smaller trees are growing on top of those ones, and the branches are tangling together. There's no soil or dirt on the forest floor. It's just roots that are tangling tighter and tighter together as you go down.
And
so yeah,
I imagine it's got to be almost like a void or like an abyss at the very kind of bottom.
The demiplanes. That's the funny thing is the demiplanes are quite weird. They all bring together a lot of. It works to have so many authors because they're all supposed to be completely self-contained places and kind of operating by their own rules. So the borders of the tangle are a little bit undefined, but also defined in that way of, things just tangle too tightly together to be passable.
Yeah.
And so that's kind of defines the borders of that demiplane, but another one might loop around to itself or have an actual wall that stops you.
So it's funny because I was hearing, obviously, I had the chance to speak to, was it Liam Swan before, who had the kind of demiplane of trains, essentially, like the derelict station.
Yes, the derelict station.
So it's funny to think that, like, within this kind of the tangled weave of like maybe there's just like a wooden train that has like an entryway somewhere. Kind of bring it all
I love that, and some of the promotional art for the Kickstarter puts the hexes and the hex art together.
Yeah,
and I think the derelict station is actually in the middle.
So
it has like all of these branching train tracks going and overlapping with the other hexes around it, and it is very funny to think of this old growth, mystical, weird forest with kind of almost hostile to attempts to like give it actual rigid architecture. And then you just have a train. It's somewhere. It's somewhere.
so we spoke about, obviously, so the kind of nature and kind of like ecological side of this, but is there like, I take it are there like denizens? Is there like a city or like towns or like also kind of
So as mentioned before, the branches kind of tangle together because these trees are massive, they grow, they reach towards sunlight, they kind of do what trees do and interfere with each other. And so you have for example Brickley that live in layers, that the branches being so massive, they essentially form solid ground in some places, or even are solid enough where water can pool and you end up with lakes or ponds. And so populations of Brickley live all over the tangle, but mostly in the canopy and sunlit areas. And getting down to the forest floor, where there is no sunlight, there's very little heat, and a lot of dead things, honestly. It is, I describe it kind of as an ocean layers, but the ocean has water in it and the tangle does not. So when stuff falls, it kind of just falls.
Sits there.
You have a curious network among the roots in this actual darkest area that's based on real life sort of fungal colonies.
Okay, yeah.
The fungal network of mycelium that connect via the roots and all over the tangle's lowest areas kind of bring in that Feywild magical aspect where we have the basis for this in real life, these network of connected hyphae that are sharing nutrients, and even we're now seeing evidence they're sharing like almost nerve-like signals of information, and it's all almost a way for the forest to be an interconnected organism. But add in the aspect of actual magic, and you end up with something more analogous to a brain that is a sapient colony organism that blurs the line between a fungus in the person.
I really do like the concept of like fungal fae. Just because that's what I really like. I love about like again the Feywild aspects myself is it is taking something like supernatural or like whimsical and then cranking up to 10 or even 11. Like it goes beyond
cranking things up to 11 or taking up what I usually picture in my head is taking a left turn. That's my favorite thing to do in RPG writing, not just because it's funny and quirky, but I really think it helps players and people that are picking up these products after the fact to look at them and really find something that's easy to make it. Like it sparks the imagination. You make an adventure out of it.
You kind of want those like those set pieces. You just
kind of like I am a big proponent of your reader, your audience is smart. If I could put the Tangle as a normal old growth forest, I could dedicate 6 pages to how an old growth forest works. I guarantee you someone, probably many people are going to pick up the book and know more about old growth forests than I do. But adding that sort of left turn or crank things up to 11 aspect, it's what led me to actually creating the sort of fungus brain at the bottom of the Tangle, because I was like, okay, well, Gripply are great. Everyone loves frogs.
Well, so yeah, that's what I had to double check. So yeah, Gripply are like the cute frog people, aren't they?
Yeah.
But they're big frogs. They're not like grung. They're not little. They're the big ones.
Yeah. They're like a tree frog looking.
Nice.
Cool. And they are sapient peoples. They have their own cultures, and they live in different sorts of locales and settlements in the upper areas. But okay, well, Gripply are something that a lot of people are familiar with, very friendly. What about the people that want to pick up this book and find something weird?
Yeah. So I guess what would you say like is the relationship then between like I guess the Gripply and then the kind of Fey fungus? I'm just going to keep calling it the Fey fungus.
That's I guess another sort of theme of the Tangle is we like to think of forests as very interconnected, and it's a tree, it's a forest, or it's a spot on the ground. But the Tangle being so enormously huge and exaggerated in its size was kind of the inspiration of like that stemmed from, well, something in the canopy might not necessarily interact with something on the bottom.
It essentially could be equivalent to like countries apart. In terms
countries apart, or like I again really like using the ocean analogy, because that's a lot of where I get the visual from designing this place is a parrotfish in the Great Barrier Reef going to go out of its way to dive to the bottom of the Mariana Trench.
I must admit that is something that I think we as humans kind of do sometimes struggle to fathom how deep our oceans are.
Oh yeah, absolutely. It's mind-boggling. I made a campaign setting for my own homebrew years ago, and I like to do a lot of research when it comes to the geology, ecology of like settings, and it took me on a ride. The ocean's scary.
Oh yeah, no. All I need to know is like every now and then I come across the image of what is it, like a blobfish?
Oh, blobfish.
Yeah, blobfish, and I'm like that thing can only exist that deep under like that's the ecosystem it needs. Any deeper, I don't want to know what lives in there.
Oh, one of my favorites are whale falls, where it's like where a lot of like you said, most people don't really think about what goes on in the ocean, but it's like, okay, well, what does happen to something that dies at the surface? Because nothing's stopping it most of the time from just. So,
I guess it either goes up or it goes down.
Yeah, and it definitely is not going to go too far up. So it's going to go down. At the very least, the bones go down because they're the heaviest part, and they just end up at the bottom, all the way at the bottom. And scientists have actually been recording over a period of years the progress of a whale fall at the bottom of the ocean that is slowly being decomposed.
No.
And it's cool as hell.
This has taken a spooky, dark, like, again, it's fitting. It's nearly Halloween.
Well, there's so much inspiration from our real world. If you go and you're interested in finding it, I love that about RPGs.
I guess, like, fundamentally, it's kind of interesting though how you can see just by taking this thing within our real world about like the weird, I guess, reality of the ocean depths, and literally just translating it towards like a different like terrain or location to be like, if we did have trees this huge, there's just gonna be, I guess, there's just gonna be bones and corpses.
Bones at the bottom and things that don't need sunlight. Not even don't need sunlight. Why would they need sunlight? Why would they care about it? If you brought a fungus thing that evolved or was created by magic in a place that literally no sunlight exists, and you brought it to the canopy, it's going to have about as hard of a time probably as a blobfish that you bring out of the ocean depths. It's going to make that blobfish face up.
it was going to be doing that anyway, but now it's like extra sad. I don't know why. It's like I guess it kind of goes to show like how like evocative the imagery is the fact that I almost imagine in a culture like if like a group of individuals living in those kind of terrains almost kind of using the kind of depth below as I guess like funeral rites. It just feels like
I mean, it makes sense because in a place that there's no soil, what are you going to do with the deceased?
Yeah, you're definitely not going to set them on fire, especially if everything's made of wood. It's like everything around you is made of wood, and there's one person like, I shouldn't start a campfire, but I'm just like a little bit too cold for that.
And so that's a big reason why I'm so glad for this opportunity. Like it's such a cool concept to take the 50 creative people, and you're going to find something in the book that excites you enough to want to say, I want to run a game here, or I want my players to go here. I personally think that trees are just cool, so that's what I did.
So I guess to kind of like, I guess, round out then, because I know that with some of the other like Demiplane stuff, work was kind of put into kind of, I guess, provide like adventure hooks, or what were some of the kind of, I guess, like people arrive and this tangled woods. What are they up to?
Well, there is a big snake.
Oh, you get that quiet.
Actually, the big snake has character art on the Kickstarter page.
Okay, so okay,
very cool. I love my big snake child. I believe it's Saphira as the artist. They did an amazing job. I basically told them it's a big snake that looks like an emerald tree boa with moss growing off of them and 4 eyes and branches for antlers, and it looks scary. And that's what the picture looks like.
So essentially there is this just kind of, I don't think, but that to me that immediately feels like deity energy. That feels like that.
Doesn't it feel like deity energy? But I mean, it's definitely something. It's got some sort of aura. But yeah, the big snake is a big snake. Like we're talking, these trees are the size of mountains, and to the point where they have other trees and vegetation growing off of them as the basis for ecosystems. And then you have this big tree boa that's kind of just traversing all up and down and around the entire tangle, doing what most snakes do, which is eating. And it's an enormous creature. And rumor has it that whoever or whatever it eats, it obtains the knowledge of.
It's getting spooky again.
But trees are scary.
I mean, the moment you say like this is like a mountain-sized snake, I don't know what you feed that thing. Like, like even if it does like gain the memories of the like the knowledge of the people it eats, that surely that's not going to be like I'm tiny. I can feed a mountain.
Yeah, and then that's kind of what is baffling about it. You have this place that seems to follow pretty relatable natural laws, and then there's just this big snake that eats people, and it kind of travels up and down the trees and just wanders places. And if you're unlucky enough to come across it, or if you look for it, because it might be able to give you that information, or you can take it.
Okay. Yeah. I like the idea where it's not necessarily like you have that freedom as a DM to kind of not necessarily imply any sort of malevolence or benevolence. It's just like
it's a snake.
It's just a snake. Yeah.
It's a snake.
It reacts to the party may vary on any sort of given occasion.
I do find it highly unlikely that a snake with 4 eyes and the memories of countless travelers is not sapient, though. So maybe it can be reasoned with, or maybe it's just beyond reason, and it's a snake.
I like it. Like it can go either way of like, but like whether it's good or really bad, and both those like it could be really good. It is a snake, and then it's like it could be really bad. It is a snake.
Yeah. I mean, like what's that saying? What's something goose gander. Point being, what might be good for the snake might be very bad for the not snake.
Yeah, no, it's fair. I think well done. Well, so no, awesome. So then I guess to kind of again to work in like a backwards timeline kind of fashion then. What was it? Was it just literally that for getting involved in the Demiverse project? Was it just kind of seeing the pitch online and just thinking, I could just throw my hat in the ring? Yeah.
Like I mentioned earlier, I've mostly done Paizo sphere stuff. So saw Adam's open call on Twitter. What struck me first is, that's cool, an open call. You don't see that a lot in the RPG sphere. A lot of the time, you're kind of expected to bring something to the table first before you're given a seat. And having an open call, inviting anyone on Twitter essentially to pitch their idea was a really cool idea to me. And we do have authors on the project that I believe this is their first RPG like published work, which is very exciting.
No, I must admit, like, so from what I know about Adam kind of prior to like the whole Demiverse series, like he was a huge kind of proponent of like starting, I think he had like on the DMsGuild, he had like a sidekick series where he would actively go out of his way to make sure that it was new authors involved with it.
And that's just so exciting.
Yeah, I know. Yeah, and it's kind of again, it must. I don't know if it has kind of like big kind of like parent energy to kind of like to nurture someone to kind of bring them in and then kind of.
We really need to see more of that, in my opinion, in the role playing industry. Like it's that thing of RPGs is pure creative energy, and it when you get to publishing, it does have a business side of things, but it's kind of unique in that anyone watching this episode, for example, or anyone who has ever run a game or played in the game are creative people. Like the only barrier to entry for role-playing games is, are you going to engage in your creativity? And when we have a community of people that are already doing that, and they have so much that they bring to their own tables, for some people, it's just a matter of giving them the opportunity to find something really cool to add to the entire industry. And so,
and I can definitely understand, because like again, starting with like a first project, it's quite daunting to think about. Like, I want to start publishing in some aspect. There's so many different aspects to it, and that's why again people like Adam, as well as things like the Storytellers, there used to be the RPG Writers Workshop, that now is the Storytellers Collective. I think those sort of kind of whatever the kind of, I guess, the individuals, groups to kind of make...
or even the sort of initiatives taken by larger publishers too. RPG Superstar used to be the big one, and it recently came back for the Battle Zoo Bestiary, and it's always been an open call to find new talent. It's also, I believe it was a rule for RPG Superstar back in the day, if you made it to the semifinals, you were not allowed to enter again, because they're trying to find new people to highlight.
And it's kind of, as you kind of said, sometimes it's just, you just need that kind of, I guess, initial shove, or that initial like foot in the door to kind of like
the barriers to entry being set aside for sure. For some people, it's a matter of they wanted to do it anyway, or they were going to do it anyway, and this just makes it easier. For others, it takes reaching out and eliminating barriers that have been put up to help them realize that that this is something that is possible, or make it easier for more people to access this industry.
So that actually kind of segues nicely into my next question then, which is more about like, how exactly did you get your start then? What was kind of the first kind of like pull of like, oh, I should publish stuff?
The big help was definitely being willing to travel. I get this question a lot, and I always preface it by saying I got here by a very strange way.
I mean, again, it's always those stories are always the most entertaining. Of like, I don't know how I've ended up here, but through a series of weird events.
Essentially, I worked with the Paizo Organized Play Foundation a lot. I'm at Manchester Adventure Lieutenant in the Orlando area. We run Pathfinder Society, Starfinder Society, and the big event every year before the plague is Gen Con, obviously. The whole big second floor ballroom only for Pathfinder Starfinder Society games. They obviously need a shit ton of volunteers. So for a few years, I would go to Gen Con to volunteer with Paizo's Organized Play Committee and help run things there, do lift boxes, roll dice, whatever. And the last year I went, because that was the last year I was in person, I decided I would be interested in writing, and a lot of Paizo Organized Play volunteers do kind of have that foot in the door for knowing how things work a little bit. We work pretty closely with like the Organized Play coordinator, who works with Paizo, the various committees. A lot of the longer term volunteers know people personally. So especially going to a convention like Gen Con, which is kind of all hands on deck for Paizo, it gave me a chance to print out some business cards and hand them out and twist people's ears a little bit. Which is why I say, look, guys, I can tell you how I got here, but it's not something that like everyone's capable of doing. I was very lucky at this point in time to be, for example, working at a job that I had enough. I had Gen Con money to fly to Indianapolis from Florida to sort of have that free time to freelance. Honestly, initially, I went there to ask if anyone at Gen Con needed an admin assistant, but then John Compton, at the time he was the Organized Play manager. He took my card, looked at it. We talked a lot of what we talked about now, the sort of process of going backwards through time. How did ecology start up on a planet in the Starfinder universe? How did the culture spring from that ecology? How did that culture get to space? We had a fun conversation about that. We had a fun conversation about disabilities and neurodivergence representation in role-playing games. by the time we ended the conversations, because someone came to us and said, guys, it's 11 p.m. the day before Gen Con, please go to sleep. But he was like, would you be interested in writing? Can I use this as contact information if like you want to write? And I said, yeah, I'd be up for it.
you know that you mentioned it. Go on then.
Yeah. And so Starship Operations Manual was my first assignment under John. I wrote lore articles for the Eoxians, which Eox being a planet of undead techno-liches, essentially.
Nice.
And the book is about the various manufacturers for starships and what they're like and what it's like working with them. And so I wrote 3 lore articles about 3 Eoxian manufacturers, including a stat block. And from there, I've worked on a few more titles in the Starfinder hardcover line.
Interesting. And so I take it, so have you always, like, again, in the kind of, I guess, Pathfinder, Starfinder kind of divide, have you always kind of gravitated more towards, gravitated more towards the sci-fi side of things? Or was it just because of, like, circumstance that you found yourself?
It was, I love Starfinder. I absolutely love Starfinder. I was at Gen Con 2017 when it launched, and I was at tables just playing it and helping the GMs, because the GMs got, like, I think they got the core rule book maybe a little bit before the convention so they could brush up on it, but it's like a 300-page core rule book.
You can brush up on it, but then it's still like this is like revising last second for an exam.
So by our powers combined, we were able to, even though I was a player, I was like, oh, that's how this works. Or like, hey, how does grapple work? Oh, it works this way. I ended up really liking the changes they made compared to first edition Pathfinder. I liked the fresh new setting, the idea of taking a fantasy setting and taking it to space. That's fun. So I do like Starfinder a lot. I am a big fan of Pathfinder Second Edition. They're both equally precious to me, I suppose.
I mean, it's like I said, you never, again, that's kind of what the great thing about, again, being like a writer is, you never have to put your eggs all in one setting. And sometimes it is nice to kind of have that kind of like that sort of reset to be like, I'm not thinking about swords and wizards anymore. I can think about what techno-liches is still kind of, there's some overlap. There's going to be like a Venn diagram with stuff in the middle, but you throw techno in the mix.
But my favorite, honestly, I'll be honest, my favorite contribution, like the favorite piece of manuscript I ever turned in, I worked on the tech, but not that before that one. I did work on Tech Revolutions, but the one before that, the Galaxy Exploration Manual. I was asked to write the tech section, and that included some items, and making some items that are like tech items to add to the game. And I have a few players, over the years, I have a lot of players that have played characters that are professional vid gamer. And at the time, a few popular fighting games had come out. So honestly, one of my favorite contributions to the game is the hit title Mighty Melee 5, the advanced vid game.
Wow, that must be a completely new reference. I've never heard of anything.
It's a hit new thing.
Well, it's the fifth edition of it.
The hit new 5th edition. If you backwards trace when probably I was writing that, you can probably figure out what my inspirations were. Had nothing to do with the fact that for a while my apartment was apparently a hosting ground for people to bring their emulators over and play a certain fighting game on my TV.
Like, that doesn't sound logical for anything. No, also, so it was literally kind of like having the freedom to kind of again kind of fill the design space of like items of like, I guess because you have that freedom of like, okay, clearly you want to have like utility items that clearly have like a kind of defined. And then every now and then you can like, I want to throw like a video game console in there.
Yeah, and like the big game has a mechanical benefit as well, which would it allow essentially when you roll to earn money for your profession. You roll based on a stat, but the book I believe lists vid gamer as intelligence or wisdom. I forget which one is in the book, but most people that I saw playing up the vid gamer aspect were going like as Twitch streamers or like live streamers, and so the whole thing behind Mighty Melee 5 is the vid game is it lets you like tie your profession vid gamer to charisma.
Nice. Okay, and then I guess like something like you can definitely like say, well, now I have my whole character concepts. Like
like filling those gaps and having the items flavor kind of be tied to the mechanics is a thing I enjoy doing.
So actually, I did want to kind of like two things I want to ask about, but I'm gonna work backwards.
Okay.
So I guess more generally, then in kind of like you mentioned the concept of like going left as like a way of kind of thinking outside the box essentially and coming up with like again really evocative kind of ideas. How exactly do you kind of start that creative process? Is it the case that you kind of you start inside the box and then work how to get out, or is it the fact that just you kind of are always like I'm already outside the box?
No, it's definitely not an I'm already outside the box thing. I definitely always start inside the box, not exactly because I want to, but that's just naturally intuitively what everyone starts at. Everyone is going to start from the most intuitive point, and most of the time that's going to be a point that most other people are going to end up at as well. That's why it's intuition. When I find myself like it's kind of like a sort of drafting process. I'm like, okay, I have this idea for this thing. They asked me to do this with the manuscript or include this sort of thing. So my first reaction to like answering that is this. And that's how I might end up at a point of saying like, I want to make this Starship manufacturer all about this thing, blah thing. And then I think to myself, does that fit with the setting? Is that interesting? Is that exciting? If you saw this as a player, is it going to be thought-provoking? Usually the answer is going to be a mixed bag because that's going to be the first draft of the idea. And so then the reason I say going left is I literally imagine myself like taking a left turn and being, okay, what's a zig or a zag to take in this idea. And once you find that sort of rabbit hole entrance, you'll know when you find it, and it's a matter of going down it.
I find it because I think it's essentially like it's like walking outside when it's like a stormy with an umbrella. It's like when you get hit by that kind of lightning inspiration. Which again, I don't recommend going outside with an umbrella. Like especially when there's, but you get the analogy. It's a case when you have that inspiration that kind of gives you all those ideas, you're like, this is how I want the DM or the player, or how they kind of feel in the same kind of way.
It's funny too because a lot of people think about creativity or inspiration as something that some people just stumble upon, or that it's a random chance or impetus, or maybe some people are just naturally more creative than others. And that's a big barrier that I see a lot as an assumption in these creative circles is I'm not creative enough to come up with those kinds of ideas or something along those lines. What a lot of people don't realize is creativity is a skill that you can practice and train. And it's something that a lot of people, I would venture most people practice just by playing or running role-playing games. But it does take that sort of understanding that the first answer or most comfortable or intuitive answer that you stumble upon to a posed question is going to be the one that is probably the least creative answer, like in your personal process. And it's being willing to find the walls of your box and push on them. That's how you can practice creativity, and that's something I've worked on a lot over the years.
I was going to say, because I think one of the most one thing that I can point to that has definitely kind of helped my creativity over the years is definitely like I used to write a lot of random encounters. And the way I actually do it would be the case I would get like I don't know, like one of those third-party websites that would generate, like it will give you here's 7 rats and a and I was about to say a lemon. Let's, I'm going to stick with it. Here's 7 rats and a lemon, and then that kind of moment of like, how do I make this make sense? And then you just kind of it immediately you're not in it's. You don't kind of fall in the box because you and you kind of your point is already towards the edges, so it's easier bit by bit. So again, if and yeah, I mean, I don't it's that weird thing where I don't know if I recommend that process to anyone, but if you're curious, like it can't hurt to just and just see where it kind of takes you. Would you say there was any kind of like particular process that you had that kind of helped kind of nurture your creativity, because as you said, it as like a skill?
A lot of it just comes down to personal process, I think. Part of the definition of creativity. I practice a lot of mindfulness and meditation, for example. So the way that I visualize my creative process tends to be very mindful in nature, and it asks a lot of questions. And so accepting that those questions are going to lead me somewhere cool was something that I kind of nurtured in developing my creative process. But everyone could do it differently. Like you described your creative process and how you practice keeping those skills sharp. Other people are going to have their way that they come to unusual answers to problems. My personal way is just, am I comfortable in the situation? How do I leave this box then?
I know it's fascinating kind of hearing kind of like your kind of approach of like mindfulness and creativity, because it makes it sound like your like creativity is very kind of peaceful and very kind of like serene. And I can't help but feel like mine is like on the opposite end of the spectrum. With like fires and explosions, where it's just like I don't know what's going on. I feel like I'm again, it's that case where I'm
by the end of my process, the comment section of my manuscripts are definitely full of puns, and I am cackling about the end results. Like I did make a vid game called Mighty Melee 5. So
I feel like again that's kind of like a constant. Like every now and then when you need like a motivation to keep going through like a project, just slip a pun in, and then the energy boost you get, it's like what I imagine like when you drain someone's soul from them, that's the same energy you get from inserting a pun within your manuscript. It's that sort of like
the worst was my first assignment, because this was my first professional role-playing writing project, and I was so nervous about it. I was so like, oh, I can't mess up, I need to be professional, and all I could think about was they asked me to name these examples of starships made by these undead, like lich-like beings, and all I can think about is skeleton puns. All I can think about is like, oh yeah, it's the skeletal heavy freighter. It weighs a skeleton, or like.
No, I do. I love me some skeleton puns. So yeah.
Oh my God. It was killing me. I'm like, no, bad, incorrect.
So So I guess to kind of okay to segue away, to turn left away from puns, and to again more kind of generally about your kind of creative process as a whole. Then, would you say you have like a favorite and least favorite part of like the process?
That answer has changed over the years.
Oh, really?
Yeah, because like I said, my first project I was so nervous and I didn't quite know what I was doing, and now I think that my favorite part of the process is talking with other people on the project. Every project I've been on has been a team effort. The Demiverse is a team effort. Every project I've worked on, Paizo is a team effort. We tend to be in very close contact with each other, usually over Discord, because it's good team building, keeps everyone on the same page to make a cohesive product.
And it's nice to have that sounding board to just
exactly
kind of
like if you have questions or whatever, like it's a good way to keep the creative juices flowing. So at first I was really nervous about being in this place where I was the newcomer. But now I just love that opportunity to make those puns and get those excellent reactions to them, and to have that sounding board or be that sounding board. So the social aspect and the networking and all that, it's very enjoyable for me whenever I join a new project.
Nice. And then I guess on the other side of the coin, then what would your least favorite part be?
Probably the deadlines. No matter how much I have finished, no matter if it's literally completely done, edited twice over, I always have that nervousness, anxiety over, oh no, did I actually turn in a piece of shit? Is going to be my last project because it's so bad? Like,
yeah, did I write that? Did I write that? Did oh no, I forget. Or the kind of like pangs of like, I did. Would this be better? Should I change it? Should I rewrite this whole thing? Or
that second guessing / imposter syndrome is
really,
from what I've learned, being a freelancer in this industry, literally everyone has it. Yep. Everyone has the anxiety,
which you think would make it better for everyone, but I don't think it does. I don't think like looking across the table and thinking like everyone here has imposter syndrome doesn't make yours any less.
It just, yeah. And that's the thing. Like everyone has it, but we all agree it sucks.
Yeah.
So there was even one project. I am dyscalculic, so it's like it is. I mix up numbers, and if I see numbers, I have to pay really close attention to them. And even when I read them, if they sit in my head, they might get jumbled. Yeah. So I have dyscalculia, and for one assignment, it said your assignment is due. I think it was something like March 5th. But it is like 4 or 5 a year. That's what I read it as anyway. And then March 5th rolls around and it's this huge project, and I'm like, oh my gosh, this has been such a grind. I wrote so many words in like so little time. This is gonna be awful. It looks terrible, but I need to turn it in.
Yeah.
And then I press the send button along with the note saying, like, I can get a more polished version of this to you later. And I look at the first email in the chain and it says May 4th. It didn't say 4/5. It said 5/4. And I'm like,
I mean, I guess in that situation, like, what did you do? Did you send an email saying, don't read my draft. I'm not done with it.
No, basically, I like when I realized, I immediately basically sent her another email saying, wait, ignore that, I'm an idiot. Good news, I have the first draft done. A month early.
Listen, it's one of those things where, like, again, to realize you have more time on something, it's a weird sensation of like, oh, well, yeah. But yeah, when it's the other way around, where you think you have more time and you don't, that's
yeah. That's literally like nightmare fuel for me. Like, literally had nightmares about it. This is due at the end of the month, and then I read something, double check another thing, and oh no, it's due tomorrow.
I think we should move away from potential nightmare fuel.
Oh my God.
like just we just want good vibes. We don't want anyone coming away from the podcast.
Good vibes only.
Because I think we know that there's going to be at least one or two people listening, going like, "Oh my God, I'm listening to this right now."
Yeah.
So I'm sorry for
to all those freelancers out there. I personally apologize for this content.
But let's again, good vibes only. On the positive side of things,
Mm-hmm.
you did kind of mention before how you were very proud of your video game reference. Would you say that kind of stands out as like a design choice that you're like particularly proud of, or is there like a close second?
I think it's weird to say, but I kind of. Is it weird to say I kind of like all of the content?
No. Honestly, I think more people should be like, I stand by it.
It always is. It tickles me when I see the final product and it's pretty close or pretty much identical to what I turned in. And it's that imposter syndrome talking of I got to make sure I can turn in something unusable.
Yeah.
And when it has good feedback and when it's put in a book, that's the I let myself pat myself on the back.
Yeah.
Because that's the way that you keep going in as a freelancer, is you let yourself pat yourself on the back when you have a job well done. So
you take those victories as and when they come in.
Yeah, exactly. So I really like the big game stuff I did. I was really proud of the lore articles I did for Starship operations. One of the things that made me most excited actually was I included a lore tidbits in Starship operations in one of the lore articles that ended up getting referenced in a blog fiction on Paizo's website.
Nice.
And that just made me very happy.
Yeah, because I guess you kind of see like your writing being a piece of like a bigger, puzzle, like a great universe. It's kind of
it belongs to Paizo now, but I did send them those words, and it's a certain relationship you have when you're a freelancer that you let yourself enjoy those little victories where they come.
Yeah, nice. And then I guess kind of to pull back a little bit and kind of look over kind of everything you've done more generally then, would you say there's like one particular lesson that you'd wish you learned sooner, or?
I don't know if there's one. I guess communicate all the time, be open with your communication with whoever your project manager is, be honest. If there's a delay, don't beat yourself up if there's a delay. Just let someone know. And every single time it's happened, people have been extremely understanding. The industry is too small for people to, I guess, be nasty to each other and get very far. So it really works better when everyone is pulling together.
No, 100%, and it's especially nice when when you're involved in a project that you can kind of speak with people. They kind of invoke that kind of like safe environment to feel like I feel like my voice is being heard, and I actually have the space to actually be listened to. It's kind of a nice one when everything kind of aligns nicely and meshes. Well, actually, again, speaking about communication, you're really good at like setting me up for the questions. It's like nice, like segue after segue. I'm just like sliding.
I'm happy to serve the podcast.
Listen, this is the what most people don't know is hosting a podcast is listening very intently for segues, and it's just like, aha! You've set me up for the next question. Let me just.
You've activated my segue.
Yeah, it's literally like I'm a wizard waiting for counterspell just throughout the entire thing. But no, speaking about communication and kind of speaking with like project managers and stuff, it kind of brings up the kind of, I guess, community as a whole, and kind of talking about like some of the people you've kind of had the opportunity to kind of work with before. So I guess like who would you say like, or who are some of the people you would say kind of inspire you in the the tabletop RPG space?
Definitely everyone I have ever worked with at Paizo. I wouldn't be here without someone looking at my business card after a convention and saying, I want to see what this person has to bring to the table. And that has been true for every single person I've ever talked to at Paizo, all of the developers, the customer service team. So if there is any one sort of voice I find inspirational in role-playing games, it would be the voice of United Paizo workers and their efforts to continue making the role-playing industry a better place for everyone. There's complete solidarity with what they're trying to do. These are people that I've worked with personally, people who have supported me, and they know best how to make their jobs better and their products better. So the bravery that it takes to push the union button takes an immense amount of bravery. So
no, and you can you can kind of already see the kind of like the rippling effect it has on like the tabletop RPG industry as well, because like all eyes are kind of essentially on the union.
It's a really historical moment for the industry, and it's tough saying no one's done this before and saying then we're going to do it. I'm actually getting a little bit emotional over it.
No, I can't imagine being like a fly on the wall for some of those again exceedingly difficult kind of conversations, and it kind of goes without saying that we like I was about to say we, as if like speaking about like podcast is only me. I'm 100% in kind of support of the union, and again wish them and everyone the best, and again the sooner they actually get recognized the better, really.
Absolutely. Yeah. We all want to make this hobby better, and we all want that sort of want that recognition to the work that we do to put games on the table, to help people have fun at home, in shops. And it's such a huge step to take. Not everyone would have had the courage to do it.
And it's the kind of case where in these situations there's always strength in numbers. Again, it's I imagine everyone kind of
don't split the party.
Yeah, never split the party. Yeah. Especially when it comes freelancers doubly so. So I guess again I feel bad segueing away from unionization, but from the many to the one, which you can tell me how bad of a segue that was. I feel that was pretty bad. We've managed to chat away an hour, Alexi. And I never want to leave like a podcast without hearing some of the kind of interesting stuff you've got kind of immediately in the horizon, and where the people listening can kind of stay up to date and follow all your, follow all your exploits. I don't know if that's the right term.
Well, I am most active on my Twitter account, Curious Cat RPGs. That's where I post the updates on the projects I'm working on and generally scream into the void. I also post cute cat pictures though, so there's that.
That's worth a follow.
Featuring an extremely oversized Maine Coon that's trying to steal my spaghetti in one picture.
I must admit. So, as someone who my family currently have a Maine Coon. They get big. They're
so big. They're so fluffy.
It's obscene.
He's easily the dumbest cat I've ever owned. It's great.
Oh, you love it. Actually, that aligns. Yeah, they're not the brightest bunch, but they do make. I think it's like brain power was translated to fluff.
There's just nothing in those heads but air and fluff.
Yeah,
it's great.
So Twitter, good place to stay up to date with cat pics, and again obviously the projects as well. But yeah, so obviously Demiverse is going to be kind of like on the horizon and working your way through that. But anything in the kind of, I guess, more immediate future?
Immediate future, honestly, I'm probably going to wind down a little bit for the holidays.
Yeah, I think
always a hectic season, but I'm always on the lookout for new opportunities, and I will certainly be posting it to Twitter should anything be announceable. I have a few things in the works, but it's a little early to comment on them at the moment.
I think it is always that case as well with like any sort of freelance. It's a case of like I'm gonna wind down, and then like within a week, it's like the case of like I'm fully booked. I've committed myself to way too many projects. Oops, what's happened?
Yeah. Oops, all projects.
Yeah. But no, honestly, Alexi, thank you so much for taking some time to sit and have this chat. It's been delightful.
Yeah, absolutely. Thank you so much for the invite.
No, any time. Yeah. Other than that, I guess we'll end the podcast then. I've been Matthew Whitby. You can find me at Whitby Writes. New projects. I've released the Longsaddle Gazetteer. Sorry. Wizard Cowboys. That's the sales pitch. Have a check in the description if you're interested. Other than that, I will throw my favorite and last question back to you, which is how do we end a podcast?
I think we end the podcast by pressing the button, but it's on your side. So
okay, sorry.
Do you need a?
Yeah, I got this one.